Hey, Natsu here. Back for part 3 of What If Deku had yin and yang energy. This is my second try because I made a really big mistake in what I was saying while doing the first attempt. So, yeah. In the last part, we ended it after the day, first day of class where Aizawa did the test outside. So, today we're going to start with All Might's training. Hero versus villain getting the bomb. So, every team are going to be the exact same in the exact same positions. So, basically every single one of the others have the exact same. Give me a second. Sorry about that. There was a fly on my wall and I basically just slapped the shit out of it. Anyway, as I was saying, everyone basically did the exact same thing they did in the original. Except for, of course, the team we're going after. Ida and Bakugo as the villains, protecting the bomb, with Bakugo instantly telling the Ida we're most likely going to lose. Saying it through gritted teeth because his pride doesn't want to allow it, but he knows damn well that if Deku decides to go full shenanigans on their ass, they're most likely not gonna be able to do anything. So, Deku, thinking about it a bit, basically decides to think, okay, we need to get the bomb, and I don't want to act alone. Basically thinking, in a hero team, normally you try to divide things between each other. So, he tells Ochako to try and go for the bomb, and that he's going to take care, or at least try to, take care of Bakugo for as long as possible. Either by defeating him, or if he cannot defeat him, stall him as long as he can. That's quite simple. So, everything starts. Ochako starts to go up, and Deku and Bakugo start looking for each other. Deku makes it quite easy to find Bakugo for himself, as he basically starts emitting some yang energy to basically just map the place, kind of. But mostly because it releases heat. Bakugo's gonna feel that extra heat and go straight for where Deku is. Though Deku can kind of feel through it when other things come into contact with it, it's more like a tingling sensation of, oh, there's something that touched it, more than just knowing exactly where something is. Though he will be able to do that later. Nowhere close to now, though. But yeah. So, Ochako goes up pretty fast, with Ida basically having his own little thing go the same way. Basically acting out full villain. Which is amazing, because just look at how he acts, it's amazing. Anyway. When Deku and Bakugo finally find each other, Bakugo doesn't even try to think, and basically just takes out his gauntlet and tries to blow the hell out of Deku, knowing damn well that he won't be able to do anything to Deku with that. Well, he can hurt Deku, but because of Deku's yang energy that can actually help him heal from a lot of things, he could retouch him later on, though right now he would need the help of Recovery Girl. Even if his skin basically gets completely removed third degree burn, his skin is gonna heal back up after a while. Of course, the amount of energy that used to do that is quite high, but he's pretty resistant to burn in general, so Bakugo's explosion is less damaging because of the heat from the explosion and more because of the blast itself. Basically, his explosion pushed Deku away as if it was a physical hit more than burning, kind of. So, everyone sees Bakugo do that. All Might's about to scream the fuck out. Bakugo explodes it, with Deku literally just running through it. He did put a layer of ice above his clothes to basically not destroy them. Well, his hero suit, I should say. It does look like canon for now, though it is going to have a few changes. Later on, of course. But right now it's still the hero suit his mom gave him. But as I said, it's going to change later on. Specifically because of his power, actually. Basically, Deku comes out literally unscathed. In fact, a lot of what was right behind Deku didn't even get damaged. Because he literally put an entire fucking layer of ice in front of him, as well as completely around him, blocking most of the explosion. Though it did destroy nearly everything in front of him, which did scare Bakugo a bit, because he wasn't ready for Deku to keep running that way. He went to prepare his second gauntlet, which this time All Might wasn't going to stop him for two reasons. The first one, he literally saw that it did nothing to Deku. And second, Deku seems to be ready to basically destroy that one already, which kind of happens. He pushes a large amount of yang energy in his right arm, and basically pushes it out, kind of as if trying to make a ball of energy fly out, which Bakugo trained with Deku. He knows how Deku attacks, so he moved out of the way beforehand. Since you can't really see pure energy right now, like, without a quirk to do that. It's not like a key from Dragon Ball. It's literally just a ball of pure heat that get pushed, that can act as a physical thing. So, yeah. Basically melting, I should say, a part of the wall behind Bakugo. Deku knew that Bakugo would move aside, which is what he was waiting for. When he stepped on the ground, using his yin energy, he pushed a large amount of it outside and started to freeze the entire floor, making sure that Bakugo's leg was caught. This is the first time for Shoto to fully see that Deku has both heat and cold abilities as well. Which does make him wonder. Because as we know, Todoroki is Todoroki. Heat and cold is what his father wanted to get. He's seeing another kid about his age who has the same kind of abilities as him, though seemingly a bit different. Going back to Deku and Bakugo is basically halfway frozen with ice, and Deku was able to put the tape around Bakugo's arm, basically making Bakugo lose. During that time, basically the exact same thing as what happened in canon was happening between Ochako and Ida. Which, this time, since Bakugo did it did it the instant he saw Deku, there was a shake in the building a bit earlier, which did make them wonder. And so, they basically kept going. Ochako was almost ready to try and, she is trying to get to the bomb, and is wondering what she can do, until the wall behind the bomb basically just blows open. This is Deku literally having decided to break through the floors to try and go up, and looked around. He saw a room where he was able to hear both Ochako and Ida, and basically just kind of went around the entire room to the back. He basically arrived and blew the wall, which scared Ida, grabbing the bomb to try and move it away, with Deku slamming his foot on the ground, firstly slamming it so hard that the ground started to crack, and then sending so much ice, firstly to fix it because he doesn't want to fall, and second to try and block the exit for Ida, basically making a beautiful little path for him that goes straight to Ochako, which she was able to grab the bomb as well, making them win the hero versus villain. Bakugo is mad quite a bit because the only reason he can kind of fight against Deku most of the time was because they weren't fighting indoor. Or at the very least, they were fighting in places with a lot of space for him to move around. Because of how he fights Deku, he was training with Deku, he was able to learn how to make explosions to try and stay afloat, kind of, in the air, beforehand to make sure he doesn't get caught in Deku's ice. Give me a second, I really need to drink. Sorry about that. But yeah, basically, the moment he heard that it was indoor, and that he heard he was against Deku, he basically knew, yeah, we either stall for time or we lose. Because he damn well knows that with his powers, his explosion don't do much to Deku. So his powers is basically just stall for time, hope Deku runs out of energy, and then punch him out. Which he was able to beat him a few times like that, until Deku started to train physically for 10 months. Where Bakugo also started to train much more vigorously, mostly his quirk, to try and keep up with Deku. Basically, this Deku is a bit stronger than canon Deku physically, while Bakugo's quirk is about at what it would be at midpoint in the forest arc. Because he trained that bitch for a long time. Of course, not able to go all out like he did in the forest arc, which is why he's only about halfway there. But still. Then the people after them start going through their tests, same thing happens. And then we go to the next day. The day where the villains infiltrates UA, grab some documents, and Ida becomes class president. Since pretty much not a lot of things can change in this one, since the only thing Deku could try to do is basically push out some ki to try and calm people, but that would just agitate them more. So, yeah, that didn't happen. And now we pass to almost an entire week after that, DUSJ. So, while they're going in the bus to DUSJ, everyone starts to talk about themselves the same way as they did before, with Bakugo being a tiny bit less annoying to everyone and actually talking to Deku mostly. He's still basically the same personality, just a tiny bit calmer because of Deku and friendly with Deku. Also knowing that he cannot fight Deku that well, so meh. He still see him as his rival and really wants to hopefully beat him again. But he knows how hard it would be for now. So they arrive at the USJ and meet 13 and start to advance to have the same explanation until the portal happens. While the villains are coming out, Aizawa starts to give orders to get the children out, blah blah blah. Which, the moment the villain starts to come out, two things happens. One, Deku's already running towards the door. Not because he wants to escape, though. Just because he knows about something. There is a presence behind that portal. Something that does not give him joy. The energy he has felt energy from the portal. Yes, another person who can use energy. Or I should say, an elemental energy. Ki, basically. Basically, he started to run towards the door, not because he wanted to escape it, but because he knows. He knows what happens when both of his energy mixes. He doesn't know that it only happens because both his energies are perfect counter to each other. But still, it's basically quite destructive. So he started to run towards the door once he passed the other student. He basically made an icicle to just kind of try to blow through the door, which did partially damage the door. Aizawa basically screamed to get the children out and started to go towards the enemy. Deku looks back towards the people who came out of the portal and can see two people that he feels energy from. And they saw him as well. The first one is Crook number 1. Basically, he's just one of the lowly villains that are around. And the amount of energy he has is quite pitiful, actually. The next being that has some is the Nomu. Yeah, this Nomu experiment is still the same Nomu as canon. The only difference is that his creation did use something to create some key path inside of him. I will not give a precise name, just say that his key energy is water energy. So, yeah. Yes, Deku can kind of counter it with both his energy, but he doesn't know that for now. The Crook number 1 we don't even need to talk about him. Aizawa literally put him down already. But yeah, the students started to run. Then Kurogiri was told, well, basically went to send them out to different places, which Deku basically decided to let himself get caught, just because a few other students were caught in it, and if they were all sent to the same place, he wanted to at least try to help them. He still landed in the water area, which the moment he saw others starting to come towards him, he basically released, by accident mostly, both a wave of yin and yang energy from his body, which kind of actually helped him, creating an explosion underwater, basically pushing everyone towards different sections. The students were sent straight up. So, yeah, that was already one thing. Kind of shaken, but still Tsuyu was able to grab Deku and Mineta and basically bring them to the boat. Then the villains started to basically just see that, oh, that kid's a bit dangerous. They still went towards the boat, though. Deku looked around, saw Aizawa fighting, and instantly started to try and freeze the water. The villains were scared. They tried to escape, of course. Which they really couldn't. The entire upper part of the water was frozen, and then it started to freeze the bottom once Deku jumped on it. And then they started running towards the shore. The Nomu, even though he's basically brain dead, who hasn't started to fight against Aizawa yet. No, wait, it did start to fight with Aizawa. Anyway, it didn't get as far as it did before it turned towards Deku. His own energy feeling Deku's energy, and basically kind of just making it subconsciously look towards Deku. Shigi looks towards the children, Aizawa sees they are there, and Shigi tells the Nomu to kill the childrens, which the Nomu tries to do. Aizawa got mad, tried to stop the Nomu, and almost got caught by Shigi trying to, disintegrate him. Didn't work, which was lucky, let's just say. Able to look at Shigaraki, stop his quirk, and try to push Shigaraki down. The Nomu, who was running towards Deku and the others, basically having, if I remember correctly, a directive to protect Shigi, heard Shigi basically grunt, looked around, and basically got, from Deku, a leg frozen. It did not react, breaking his leg to go and try and help Shigi, with the leg regrowing not long after. Which scared the shit out of them. Basically telling Tsuyu to start running. He basically grabbed Mineta and is trying for her to start running and to grab Mineta while he tries to freeze the Nomu, at the very least trying to help Aizawa. Deku preparing more key attacks. Shiki basically getting help by Kurogiri, basically opening a portal under him. Aizawa letting go to not fall in the portal. Having barely enough time to see the Nomu getting closer, tries to stop its quirk, and then getting punched. Which the Nomu is still quite fucking strong even without its quirks. Deku now got a lot more scared. He started to push even more ki towards his hands to create more ice and basically send nearly a wave, kind of, straight in the direction of the Nomu. Also, when I say wave, I don't mean a wave that goes outward and expand. More like a straight line that's about a meter wide, right on the Nomu. And then the Nomu, subconsciously mostly, using his own ki, basically kind of creating a water energy around him to basically punch. Which was a bad idea for it, because now, not only the outside of his arm got frozen, but the ki inside of him started to freeze as well, since it's water ki. Basically, it froze the entire arm, which, once again, he just breaks off, but this time, it seemed to have done something. Of course, since it recovers, he doesn't really have anything to do, and basically just starts to run towards Deku. Well, run, gallops, whatever the hell you want to call it at that point. But he is finally seeing Deku as something to attack. Aizawa got scared in that moment because one of his students is about to get killed. Which luckily did not happen for two reasons. Deku put as much as he could without actually harming himself, from what he thought, of his ki inside of one of his legs. The purpose? Jump straight back. Behind him is the water, or what was water. It's basically an ice field for now. And basically jumps as far as he can using that, with the Nomu punching the ground after that happens, where Deku was. Getting angry because it didn't hit his target, he started to follow. Deku used about 10% of the yang ki in his body just to push himself backward. He nearly hit the wall of the USJ when doing that. Well, no, actually he went to the wall, but he cut himself on his legs before he basically slammed into it, pushing himself back towards the water, or ice, and once again putting 10% in his arm this time, and slammed as hard as he could on the ice. The Nomu was running towards him, basically breaking through the boat to get towards Deku, and then every single bit of ice that was under them basically started to crack with a massive amount of sounds. The Nomu, running as it does, and literally not fucking caring, basically gets slammed to the ground from the ice literally starting to move like icebergs while they're melting. Of course, it tries to keep going towards Deku, falling in the water, and now Deku, who had also prepared quite a bit of yin energy in his other arm, which this time is about 50% of his total reserves, which is quite a lot, because from anyone else's point of view, his arm is literally glowing a fucking dark blue. Since currently the way his energy is If he had more and had a better control over it, he could completely stabilize it inside of his hand without it leaking, basically compressing it into a single point. He doesn't have that much control, so it's still kind of leaking, and because it's so concentrated, without being able to be kept inside, it is glowing. He slams it down in the water, basically jumping right before towards where the Nomu is, and pushing right down over the Nomu. Firstly, he didn't make contact with the Nomu, but did send all of that energy straight down. At about that point, All Might arrived and basically saw two things. First, Shigi already starting to run away, because literally the Nomu is basically being destroyed by a kid from what he's just seeing, and basically Kuroki forcing him down a portal. And as All Might also turns his head, sees Deku basically slamming the Nomu right in the face, or what he thought was that, but no, it's basically just pure energy that he hit, pushing the Nomu underwater and then freezing the entire lake, kinda, well, the entire pool, in a matter of seconds, and basically pushing out ice completely around the pool. The other villains who are inside the pool are currently frozen solid. They're not dead, but their heroes will have to go get them. The Nomu, on the other hand, just like the villains, they're still alive. It's still alive, but it did just take a massive blast right on it, with the best energy to counter his own, basically freezing him from the inside so perfectly that it will take a while for him to unfreeze. Deku is basically exhausted, because that's the most energy he used in one go since, well, never before. The rest of the villains are restless, mostly seeing All Might, but also a lot by the kid who just froze an entire pool in a second, not knowing that on the other side, Shoto's basically doing the exact same thing to villains, freezing them instantly. But basically, All Might jumps straight in, pushing the other villains out, since Aiza was also in danger, while a few students are going towards the lake to get Deku. To be precise, Bakugo and Kirishima. After that was taken care of, and that later other heroes arrived, firstly, 13 was brought to a hospital to help with her injuries. Same thing for Aizawa. But Deku was basically the top priority in that moment, because the teachers, basically acting like teachers, wanted the student to be helped first. Even though, from his point, he basically broke a leg from pushing 10% of the energy in a weird way to push off of it. Basically, it's not the energy that broke his leg, it's the hit that it did to it, and how when he stopped himself on the wall, basically the small crack that had happened from the energy blast basically snapped the rest off. He didn't really feel it, since it's placed well enough to not really do anything, and thanks to his Yankee basically already helping try to heal it. And then there's his arm. it's frozen solid because of his lack of control over his ki. Though thanks to Recovery Girl, everything is fine. They did have to melt the ice off though, which Bakugo quite simply just said, put his arm in a fire, it's gonna be fine. Which a few people didn't believe, and then he basically just said he's literally immune to normal flames at this point. One of his energy basically protects him from that perfectly, or until a certain temperature. Even his explosions basically don't leave burn marks, they just give a hit to Deku. I'm going to end it here. In the next part, it's going to be the 1 week of break before the 1 week of training and then sports festival. Was it 2 weeks before the sports festival? Whatever. Anyways, hopes you liked it. Oh yeah. There's gonna be a link in the description starting now, which you don't need to use it if you don't want to. It's basically just a site, because normally, at how I am currently in YouTube, I could start getting money from the ads and such. The problem is I don't have a credit card, so I'm not getting money. Because of a few things I was trying to do, I basically connected to a site to try and do something, where basically I can post my videos there as well, basically connecting, putting the link from my videos in there so that people who go there can be sent to my videos on YouTube. But also they can leave tips for different things or tell me comments and such. So, like I said, you don't need to go there. In fact, I don't really expect anyone to go there. But I'm still telling you anyways. So, this was What If Deku Had Yin and Yang Energy Part 3. I hope you have a good day. Ciao. Natsu, out.